Hey, my name is Scottie, and in this tutorial we're going to be sketching this seaplane right here. Now, I'm not an expert in sketching planes, but I can apply my sketching techniques and process to try and work out how to sketch anything. So like this plane, I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. So whenever I start sketching a reference like this, where I don't have as much experience, I always have to find the big shapes. So I'm looking at the red section and those white feet floating sections. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this top red section in with dots, like you'll see on this picture right here. Let's place the first dot on the right where the propeller is, about there, and then we come across to the maximum length that we're going to have there. Then let's divide those two dots in the middle, and then in between those two on either side, two dots there. Now we have a framework to start, or a proportion to start. The first line that we're going to draw is this bottom line, because that's a nice long line that we can draw the whole way across. The top with the wings is a little bit tricky there. So let's just draw that bottom line, and it comes and pinches about 3/4 to about there. Okay, so start on this side, and it goes back down like that. Okay, the top of the tail here probably comes up about this distance between the dot and the bottom there. We go up that distance again, and then a little bit. Just angle it back there. So we're going up there. Okay, bit outside our dots that we did. Now I'm looking at that shape. It comes down probably about to there, above that dot. Changes direction, a little bit less steep. And then we're aiming down to this pinch point here. There we go. It starts to go up there. And then let's draw the top section. So it's a bit flat through here. Goes about to that dot there, the quarter, and then starts going up. That's where the wing is there. So where does this wing go? It comes up, angles up a little bit, not as high as the tail, and we want to make sure we get it nice and long. Put it about there. Okay, so now we join this point to this dot, so let's join that up. And then we have that front section there of the wing that we can see, which extends out, but it angles down a bit, so perhaps up to there. Let's draw that teardrop shape there on the side. Now we can look at this silhouette, this negative shape here. Angles back, follow that, and it comes in a little bit, and then you can see that the wing has that flap down, so we can go across like this, and now I have that shape. It's not perfect, but it's something similar to what we have there. We can skip the detail in the middle and come across to this wing. So it's not as high as this wing, down a bit, but it's not as far as the end of the propeller, so about there. So I can still get a nice angle there. So let's join that up like that, and then give it thickness. It comes in, it's got a strut, support strut there, like that. Okay, now we've got the main shape. We can actually add the propeller. I'll put a dot there for the end where I think the end of the propeller should be. Got one end there, little oval shape there. Okay, so we've got our main shapes. Now we have to add these floating legs for the seaplane. So the width here, we can compare it to the gap, and the gap is a bit shorter. So if you grab that width and you come down, but you go up a little bit. So I'd exaggerate that gap, that just makes it a little bit smaller than that width. So that's that width there. You can see that. Now how far does it come out to? Well, it comes out further than that propeller nose to about here. And it comes along, if we go back, to about here. Okay, so we've got the gap right, and we've got the length right. So we can draw this top line. And then it goes down, and it has this rudder in the water. The next one across, and it leaves a little bit of a gap there. And it comes right across, and it probably comes out a bit further than the other one. So you can look at that distance, about the same. So let's go. Okay, so we're slowly building these shapes. Now get that shape there. It looks like a flat banana, like that. And the other shape comes, just copy that shape. Okay, now where do we start that water? Probably about here, about halfway. And like we draw plants, we draw the leaves, just the silhouette of a bush. This is kind of like the same thing I'm going to try here. You can have that sort of streaming off the side there. In the bottom of the water, it's a bit flatter, but still wonky, and has plenty of energy there. So that side there like that, and then connect that. Now feel that energy of the plane landing. There'll be a nice shadow here. Make sure you got a shadow there later. Now the struts. It doesn't matter so much because we've got the main shapes right, but come down from the windscreen, and we've got this pole there, and then the other pole comes across, attaches here, and then comes back, and then comes down. This, okay, it's down again here. Just make sure you get these attached to the right floater, the right foot. I don't know what you call these. But then we've got almost like stairs on the other side. Okay. Then we'll just get some lines for these, break up this with some lines there like this. This is for the black. It's across that, the front here too, like that. See those stripes there? We'll add those into. And I'll make them the thickness with the watercolor, so you won't worry too much about outlining those shapes. So we're going to start here and end here. So we look a little bit in front of your line. There's another line there. You want a generally straight line. I don't look at my pen, or I don't look exactly there. I kind of look here, just in front of the pen. But you can go really slowly there if you don't want to go fast. Okay, we've got that in. Now we'll start with the window here. It goes across and then down, just about a third down of that height between there, and then it comes back up like this, and then the wing comes around there. Okay, get this strut in. So I would say it's about here, about a third of the way up the wing, and angles back down to, let's mark it here. Okay, so the other side. Okay, that. Now we can draw those windows behind the strut. And then we don't want to miss out on the rest of this flap. So let's draw that in, that, and there's other windows here. Let's draw the windows in, like this. So slowly breaking down into the details. Let's draw the stripes. So the start here comes back to there, slowly across, back up around there. The next one comes about here, start really close, slowly getting further apart. Right there, goes low, but then it comes back up like this. And this one goes across like that. And we have this side wing, goes out like this, and the top. So the split between those lines, I'm just going to do in one line, and the watercolor will show that split better. Okay. Now the words here, what we could do is just put a line like this, and a line, maybe there's the back of the Z, and then just going across the top like we're silhouetting some shapes there. The bottom of the sixes, it doesn't really make sense, but it's just the impression of something there. Okay, the R, S, the bottom of the S, adding something. Now inside the windows, there's like a window in the back there, and there's a console, and something here like a person, pretty important. And then person there, just add in some details in the cabin there. Now, here like that. This is, I'm doing the propeller. So the propeller, the end of the propeller goes past that point. So I put a dot there, and let's do, and then the next propeller blade comes down like this, and there we go. It's starting to come together now. Any more details? So there's an air intake here. I can make that a bit darker, and something there, little square there, and then almost like gills here. We could add a door, this handle, something there, something there. Just going around and trying to find things that make it a little bit more interesting. Line there. There could be something going through here. Maybe that's the back rudder. I'm not really sure what that is. Okay, and there is actually some wires here. I'll simplify that down, just adding a few, something going on there. Okay, and then the last thing that we can do with the pencil, I'm not going to draw the top of the trees. I'm just going to keep that really subtle in the background. So, but I will draw a little bit of that. And how does it come? It sort of comes across here. Okay. Okay, that's all the line work. Now let's get on to some watercolor. Okay, we're going to go straight into the main color. So I have cadmium red, and put that in there. Okay. And then what we're going to do is blend it into a pinky red, darker pink red. Okay, so but we'll start with this cadmium red on the left hand side of the plane. Okay, let's bring it across this way, and we'll just miss those white bits for now. We can do a line between them a little bit later. Okay, now as it goes across, I'm adding a bit more color. It's okay if we leave white bits as well, by the way. Okay, now get some permanent rose, mix it in. I've got some alizarin crimson. Okay, let's try and darken that up now. Now spread it in a bit there. We've got the port strut, that's okay. See, this paper just captures the color so well. Okay, it's got lots of saturation coming across. I might keep that for the top, the wing as well. Okay, now I'm just slightly reducing the saturation by taking some of the water out, and I can wipe it on a bit of a towel and do this front bit there. On the end here, it'll be saturated again because the light's coming this way. So those little surfaces that are facing us will give a little bit of, it'll be a little bit darker. Okay, coming down here, and this lettering is coloured there. Okay, what we can add. You can even add just a bit of blue, ultramarine, and how's that going to look? Probably you won't tell much of a difference, but just cools it down a little bit, make it interesting. I love having colour gradients. I keep the front nice and warm and light, and then it goes through these different phases. Might add a bit more colour there. So the stripe down the middle, I'll start with just cadmium red, and will I be able to see that? Maybe I'll have to start a bit because I've already gone over there a little bit, and then get the other colours, and then follow this line, that, and there'll be a line across here too. Okay, awesome. Put some red in there. Now if we want to, we could add, get a bigger brush with lots of water, so we're very light, and we're just going to add a little bit where the reflections would be, maybe. See how that looks. Now for this bottom floating device, we have Paynes grey, but we'll start more with a bit of ultramarine in this Paynes grey and a lot of water. So I'm going to make this come like this, okay, like that. And then as we go across, we'll add more Paynes grey. It's darker. Same with this at the top. It's darker as we go across. See little bits of it there. Put a bit in there. Oh, just to darken it in there. We can also use this. See here, it's reflecting the water. Quite dark reflection, and there are dark reflections in the canopy here. This little thing there. That might be where you put your foot. And just before I forget, get a bit of that red, and let's do these two stripes. So they start off very thin, thicker as they go along, like that. There's actually one on the other one, just on the very top, something there. Okay, this is really fun sketch to do. I love this. You can add a little bit of the reflection here of these super lots of water there. Very light is what I mean. And it can be, see how dark it is in there too. So now get your big brush, or you can use the other brush, but just easier this way. So what I'm going to do is wet this whole top section above the aeroplane here, and then we're going to put in some of the foliage just with the colour, really subtle. Get around, this is wet on wet. So you can do this with your watercolour paper. If you don't have watercolour paper, I'll just go easy on this part of it, because it can wreck your paper if you don't have thick watercolour paper. Just down to the edge there. Okay, just looking for the light here. I can see that water, it's wetting it. Okay, now I've got Viridian green, and as I go, I'm going to also add, so I don't want too much, that's too much. Make it really light, like this. And as I go, see, it just suggests the foliage in the background. Don't have to draw the outlines. I might just add a little bit more just here to balance it out. And then get sap green, which is more of a yellowy, and we'll just add those in, just like little bits to balance that. Suggests that there are different plants there. We can even add turquoise, my favourite combination with Viridian green. Just add a bit in there too. Depth of colours in there. It's beautiful. You can add a few splatters at the end. Cerulean blue. Really light wash again. Lots of water. It's really transparent. Now you can just kind of do this bit in the background here. Just a few streaks. Could do the same as the foliage, where you just do it all wet on wet. But because it's such a fast plane, maybe that speed will come across if you've got this. So as it comes here, we get thicker. Once again, just transparent. And then I'm going back to turquoise. You can choose any bright blue, and I love the, maybe too much, in those explosions in the water there. We can get that turquoise, make it a bit more saturated, and then let's see what happens if we got some splatters here. You can tap your brush like this, or you can do this, and that just looks like water's spraying everywhere, especially because it's so white there. With just the more contrast you have, it's really nice. Next is the shadows. So what we do for shadows is use ultramarine, and put the ultramarine into here with just a little bit of permanent rose. Okay, not too much. It's mostly ultramarine. Make sure we got lots of water. Okay, this is going to be the shadows. So where there are shadows are underneath this main section, and then under the wings, on the side of those things, and then we've got some water reflections. Let's try that out first here. So under there, it's all dark. Okay, and then on the side of this pole, support strut, and then underneath, I think that's too much, too purple. That's really good there. See how that purple and the red combine, really nice. And then we've got underneath this wing here, actually comes down across, doesn't it? Straight across like that. And also this section here, the wing, because the sun's coming down like that, This section here will also be in shadow down to there. Okay, and then there'll be a little bit of shadow here. So it's a very subtle bit coming off the propeller. So these poles on the back here will be dark, just a little bit on the left showing the light. Most of these back ones will be shadow, and then a little bit under here, a few little things like that. Okay, now I'm going to just go across here, so this little bit of that saturation out, and a bit on this side. And then below here, this section is in shadow here. So actually right down to there. So a few lines. Okay, shadow's coming along. Very light shadow on this side of the wing, the tail, you call it. Okay, we need a bit more ultramarine and permanent rose for the shadow in the water. Okay, now will this be better with a bigger brush? We can see that really dark shadow there. So that's what we're going for. This, and just adding some interesting lines there. You can see there's lots of dark little reflections that go right into here again. Lots of energy. We want energy at the back there, and we'll add some more on top there. Okay, so we've got the lighting right and the colors. What I want to do now is add some texture on top of this red section. So I'll wash my brushes there, and I've got my old brush, cadmium red, what do we have, Alizarin crimson and permanent rose. Trying to get a rich red. Now I'm going to flick it into that dark section and just coming out like an airbrush. You can see that? Sort of spraying out this way and getting a nice gradient. Maybe at the back here too, the tail and under the wing this way. Okay, trying to get some bigger splatters with this. Enough. Now if you want some bigger dots, we can add permanent rose, cadmium red, maybe like some dots of energy coming back. It's hitting the ground, and almost like the red is flying off the paintwork. Okay, and just balance it and connect it to the page. Just adding little dots around with the end of my brush. And I get that Viridian green. I'm just going to add, because that top bit's dry, add some more interest. So this is me just tapping and ultramarine into the water. Okay, I've got my Posca pen to add some highlights. So we want to do some highlights on the top surfaces of things. So we've got this surface here on the edge of the wing, stand out a bit more, and you can see there's lots of white actually reflecting on the top. Like that. There's some things shining in the windows there, and there on the propeller there might be a little highlight. Okay, now let's get these lines back in. Sort of lost these nice stripes. A little bit on this line here, and then in the water we've got heaps of little reflections. So scrape your pen like this just lightly across the page. See, there's lots of reflections there, and splashes. So have some in the trees. Now the only thing I really feel like it needs is just a little bit more red here. So what I do is cadmium red. This is just after looking at it for a while and just feeling like that I did it a bit too light for too long there. So let's see if this kind of paper can handle it going in, adding a bit more red here. Okay, so I've added the color. Now let's, with a plain brush, bring it across. I might increase that saturation of the red. I feel like it was missing, but it's safer to have done it lighter and then increase it now. If you've got cotton paper like this, it's easier to do. You can even add some darker red bits here. Didn't even think of that before. Balance that out from to the front. A bit of red there. So I hope you enjoyed that really loose, quick sketch of this seaplane, working out the structure, not understanding really the proportions of a seaplane, but just doing it from observation with some measurement points. It sort of means that you can sketch anything you want if you have the proportions of the main shapes. I've got the full tutorial of this, the reference and the template on my Patreon as always. You can check it out there. Best way to learn by sketching along with me. You can always email me with your sketch at the end and ask any questions you like. But as always, there's more tutorials like this on YouTube. You can check out those just here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.